Everybody wants to generate new leads and make more money, right? Well, there is a gland in our brain that is actually responsible to make us click buy. And this is not some kind of voodoo magic. In fact, this is absolutely scientific. I'm pretty sure that you want to know more, right? Okay, so keep on watching and welcome. One shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah. Let's make a practical example with your body. That's right, I'm gonna make your body to produce a liquid, no matter if you want it or not. Yeah, I'm not joking. Are you ready? Okay, watch this 10 seconds clip and I'll see you just now. So by now you should have noticed that your mouth is fuller with saliva, right? So your empathic brain, the empathic part of your brain, associated me squeezing the lemon with that acidic liquid going into your mouth. And the limbic system reacted, producing saliva to counteract the effect of this acidic liquid, like if this imaginary lemon juice was actually in your mouth. So if I can make you salivate, can I also make you do something else, like click buy or liking my brand or my product? This is called neuromarketing, and it's not new. It's been used for decades by multinationals, and today really anybody can benefit from neuromarketing to boost sales. Before I show you some examples and how this really works and how can you apply it to boost sales, give me a minute so I can show you scientifically how this works, so everything else is going to be very clear. This is your brain and this is the amygdala. The amygdala is a gland, is part of the limbic system, which is also called the reptile brain. And it's called the reptile brain because it's so old and ancient, it's less sophisticated, and is the part of the brain that deals with the primordial instincts, with emotions and subconscious. Specifically, the amygdala contributes to functions such as emotions, as we said, fight and flight response, when you are in danger, subconscious response, like the lemon juice that you just experienced just now. And then it triggers the neocortex. The neocortex is the top part of the brain that is responsible for everything that is sensory inputs and also for action. The neocortex is also responsible for language. So in case of a sales pitch, it makes you say yes. The amygdala also triggers the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is responsible for learning and also for the creation of new memories. So for example, remembering a new brand. And finally, what's interesting for us, the amygdala, it's important for the decision-making process. And this is very well demonstrated because take for example a patient with a case of a stroke that affects specifically that area with the amygdala and the limbic system. That person cannot even make a decision going to the supermarket and decide what kind of cereal that person wants to make. I mean, this has been very well documented scientifically. So to conclude in neuromarketing, and then we go into the examples. We got sensory input into the neocortex that go and affect the amygdala. This is extremely quick, the way that it happens. Then the amygdala influence the hippocampus and then the creation of new memories, and then the neocortex again to take action, so that we take some actions, sometimes voluntarily, oftentimes involuntarily, like you experienced with the lemon. Okay, let's start for the first example, and then at the end I will tell you how can you apply this in real life in your market. The Journal of Applied Psychology in April in 1999 published a study of the effect of music in purchasing behavior in a wine store. Could French and German music affect the purchasing behavior of consumer in a wine store? Over a period of 2 weeks in a wine store, they have been playing French music for one day and then German music another day, alternating for 2 weeks. What they discovered that the days that the French music was playing, the French wine sale absolutely exploded compared to the German one, and vice versa. When German music was playing, German wine was outselling the French one. On top of that, they've done a questionnaire, clients going out of the store, asking them if they thought that the music was influencing their decision, and 90% of them, they said absolutely not. My decision is my decision, it has not been influenced by music. So you understand how powerful is the amygdala that has been influenced by the music in order to purchase the wine. That is subconscious, and it's so powerful because it doesn't affect the conscious part. In fact, clients, they were not even aware that they were influenced. They thought that the decision was 100% rational. Yeah, right. We all know that during a sales conversation or in a sales funnel, the worst thing to do is to start speaking about ourselves, how good we are as a company, how fantastic we are, how many clients we have, and all of that. Okay, so that is the wrong thing to do. Then we all improved in the market, start talking about the client, what are their needs, what our products can do for them, how we can improve their lives. And this is already better, but it's not neuromarketing and it's not powerful. What is powerful is to ask ourselves the question, how do we make our client feel with the campaign that we're doing? How can we change the feeling that they have? And I know this sounds all about romance and all of that, but it really isn't. You will see in some example right now, besides the one that I just told you about, but if we can change the way that the person feels, we affect the amygdala and the person is not even aware that it's coming closer to our brand. Emotions trigger sales. Skeptical? Okay, let's take a practical example. In 1985, Coca-Cola was losing against Pepsi market share because Pepsi did a blind test with consumers and they found out that without knowing which product they were testing, typically they were choosing more Pepsi. So Coca-Cola came out with a new formula, a new recipe, and they call it the new Coke. You might remember, if you are as old as me at least, you should remember this Coke. Coca-Cola tested a new product with 20,000 people. That's a lot of tests to do. And the result was that people liked the new formula better than the old one, not knowing which one they were testing. But better yet, they were liking it more than Pepsi. So super happy, they did a great launch in the market and it was a disaster. They received 8,000 calls from angry clients that they wanted the old product back at the headquarters. Every day, 8,000 calls. So how can 20,000 people be wrong? What did Coca-Cola miss? But you see, Coca-Cola spent decades in making advertisement based on feeling. All the advertisement that Coca-Cola was doing was about how the product makes you feel. Taste the feeling was the tagline at the time. And this is not just a classic neuro-linguistic programming tactic, but look at the picture. The association is not to the great tasting beverage, but it's about the feeling of spending time together with your loved one. Take this other one, for example. Taste the feeling. Do you think that the potential client is looking at the blurred bottleneck? You can't even see the product. Taste the feeling. That's a direct attack to the amygdala. And you think this is just for a male audience, but check this other one with Elvis Presley. Targeting the right audience is key and is part of the analysis when you do neuromarketing. Not convinced? In 2004, they conducted a test analyzing which part of the brain was active when testing sodas, Pepsi against Coca-Cola. Okay, in the first test, they were blindfolded, so they couldn't see the product. And no surprise, slightly over 50% chose Pepsi. But we knew that already from previous studies. Now in the second test, okay, remember, now they're analyzing the parts of the brain that were activated. They told the people what they were drinking. So they knew when they were testing Coca-Cola and they knew when they were testing Pepsi. The results, very, very different. Now 75% of the testers chose Coca-Cola. And now you know already what I'm going to tell you. Because the feeling advertisement affected their amygdala and therefore subconsciously they chose Coca-Cola. But you don't have to take my word for it, because during that test, because of the analysis, they saw that the amygdala and the whole limbic system was activated during the choice when they saw the brand Coca-Cola, and it was not activated in the first part of the test when they were blindfolded. Blindfolded. Seriously? Yeah, of course blindfolded. Do you understand how powerful neuromarketing is? And by the way, Coca-Cola reintroduced the old formula 3 months later, calling it Coca-Cola Classic, resulting in a huge sales boost, and in 2002 they discontinued the new Coke. So if you young folks don't see the new Coke, it's because it doesn't exist anymore. The same happened when they launched Coke Zero. Remember Coke Zero, the black can? Because of the whole health issue and reducing sugar consumption, they had to launch a product without sugar. And they wanted to differentiate it from the normal Coke with this black can. Now, because of the neuromarketing campaign go straight into the amygdala, making people associating the red label with that specific taste with what they want to buy, this was also not as successful as they wanted to. It didn't take long for them to realize that they had to unify the brand. So they took Coke Zero and Diet Coke and Coke Life in those countries where it was present, and they labeled it all the same in red with just a ribbon on top that was differentiating the various products. So that was fantastic. All the dollars they were spending in neuromarketing, they were effective on all the product line. And guess what? Coke Zero sales went up. 4 flavors, 1 brand, 1 neuromarketing strategy. It's still the same Coke, it will give you the same feelings. That's what's behind it. You know when you do a search in Google that you have the advertisement on top in blue, the hyperlinks in blue? Well, Google analyzed 50 shades of blue to see if by chance one of those shades had more clicks than another. And they found out that there was one that was performing better. They changed that blue across the board and they made a change in annual turnover. of $200 million, just changing the shade of blue. This is the power of neuromarketing. Amazon reported that increasing the experience of the customer, of having a quicker turnaround time when doing a purchase of 1/10 of a second, they increased sales by $1.2 billion. 1/10 of a second of experience, $1.2 billion. Now, rationally, our brain cannot detect a tenth of a second difference when you click purchase, when you go through your cart. But the difference that the amygdala felt in terms of experience shifted people on buying by $1.2 billion. This is the power of neuromarketing. So if you want to start increasing leads and sales with the power of neuromarketing, first of all, subscribe to this channel. But practically, what I typically do with my clients is that I analyze three things that are strictly connected. First of all, who is the target audience? And here we split into two areas. One is B2B and one B2C. So if it's a consumer product that you're trying to push or a brand, then you just analyze the type of audience that you want to reach. And there's various techniques on doing that. If you do B2B, so if you talk to business and you want to capture leads, then you need to analyze not only the type of audience in terms of company, but most of all, who is the persona that you want to target. So if you are marketing, for example, to a sales manager or a marketing manager or HR director, you need to understand what kind of problems these people have, what will make them feel better. And what make him feel better, it doesn't mean, for example, for a sales manager, oh, just increase sales. No, what will make that person feel better is because he's going to have a kick if the sales go up, or he's going to feel his ego going up. You need to understand psychologically what it is that will make that person feel better. Or if that person has got a pain, what will alleviate that pain? Number two, what are we trying to sell? Let's define the product, the brand, or the service that we're trying to propose. Then we need to create the link between the previous two. So what can we do? And we use tactical media to do that. So media that, like for example, the colors of Google, media that the way that is shaped and packaged when it's delivered to the customer will trigger the amygdala, associating the product with the pain or desire that that person has. Again, not the company, the person. You need to target the person. If you found value in what you've seen, please click the like button. That really helps the channel, and stay tuned. Feel free to share the video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a fantastic day.